watchers, welcome back to the channel, to today's review where I am featuring my second piece from Bausele. This follows on from the Bausele Ocean Moon model, which was released a couple of weeks back, and now this is the second one that I have the pleasure to test drive and review. So Bausele, again, 2011 establishment with the goal of premium watches. It is the only Australian Swiss-made brand. They have an MO to go for Swiss-made quality, and they've become the official supplier to the Australian Army Intelligence Corps, as well as being the official watch of the Sydney Opera House. So let's get into this without further ado and open it up to show you guys this packaging. So inside here we have one of the locations where they may grab a piece of Australia, which is actually red soil from the Kimberley region. And then just simply inside here is a travel box, which I really appreciate, and an extra rubber strap. So these watches do come with extra straps. In this case, the basic default is actually a dive rubber strap. So I'll put it down and I'll show you that in detail later. And then just show you the manual just briefly. So printed in black. So I do appreciate how they actually do their manuals. Actually, they do it very legibly, very simply, but it tells you all you need to know, really. Okay, just going to flick through and show you guys how they actually tell the story of this IsaSwiss movement and the functions, and that's their, I guess, custom water resistance chart there. Okay, so that's the manual. Let's get into this. So this is a nice faux leather travel pouch, which I really like, being a practical thing. I always like practical bits of packaging rather than just a box that will sit there. This one you can take traveling with you and it will hold the watch and protect it. Okay, so let's just undo that and show you the watch in detail. So guys, this is the Bausele ChronoS in beige color variation. It does come in black as well as red, available on the website. I think there was also a PVD one or DLC one that was available, but that was sold out. So this is the one I was able to get my hands on. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about the case first. The case here is measured at 43 millimeters and stated as 43 millimeters, but that's actually that bezel diameter, that polished kind of gear type shaped bezel diameter. If you look at the side of the case, you can see the case is actually slightly smaller than the bezel. If you measure the diameter of the case itself, it comes up at 41 millimeters. So not as big as the bezel. The bezel actually makes it look bigger than the case otherwise would be. 316L surgical grade steel, of course, in these watches. And in this case, the thickness is measured at 13 millimeters. Lug width is 20 millimeters. I think that's appropriate for a 41 case. With that bezel being 43, it makes it slightly, I guess, disproportionate. Usually with a 43 watch, you might have 22 millimeter lugs. That's just how it looks like. Lug to lug distance between my thumbs is 48 millimeters, which is fair. That will fit onto my 17 centimeter wrist without too much problem. The overall weight of this watch with this metal bracelet in adjustment, I've taken out a few links. Adjusted weight is 153 grams. If you use the rubber strap, it is only 93 grams, so substantially lighter if you go with the rubber strap. Okay, finishing now. Firstly, the bezel here is polished. Okay, so just show you the surfaces of the bezel here. Okay, all the way to the side, this bezel in this kind of a faceted gear shape is completely polished finishing. Moving on to the top surface of the lugs there, we have a actually circular brush pattern. Hopefully that kind of translates onto the camera here. A circular brushing on the top of the lug there, and then there is a bevel. You can see there is a bevel, there is polish, and then it transitions onto longitudinal brushing across the sides there. In between the lugs is actually vertical brushing, but you don't really see that too much. It is actually longitudinal brushing on the sides there. And if you look at the base, right, the base surface of the lugs is actually a polish finishing. Okay, so that's the finishing of the case there. That screw-in case back, I'll just show you, hopefully that translates on the camera. There's a platypus and a cockatoo that's upside down. Let's just hold it right side up for you. So a platypus and a cockatoo at the back there. So, you know, Australian animals there, you know, which are kind of iconic. They're very popular and used in symbolic crests and whatnot across the country. So, you know, Australian native animals on the back there with that screw-in caseback and the screw-in main crown. The water resistant rating is 200 meters. And then I'll just show you you know, I guess one of the icons of this brand is the repository crown. In this case, they have beach sand. This is either from Whitehaven or Bondi Beach. That's the sand and the locations that they've sourced this particular sand from, which, you know, really is to match the motto of the company. On the website, you can see it, keep a piece of Australia with you. You know, that's the kind of the idea that they've gone for with these repository crowns. Every single watch they've made has a repository crown. Okay, so let's just move on to the dial now. So this dial here is kind of like a sand texture beige dial, which I really enjoy seeing. You know, this kind of almost like sandpaper, I suppose you can call it. But I think it's, in this case, for me, it evokes the idea of a beach. It does have embossed details, so you can see the Australia down the bottom there, as well as the Swiss made. And then all around, you can see the 12 and 8 and the Bausele kind of applied steel, as well as the applied steel lume markers on the outer hour positions around the dial there. In terms of sub-dials, it does have a you know, chronograph counter at the 10 o'clock position. I guess it's kind of a totalizer, but it also functions as a seconds counter in different modes, and we'll go into that in detail. And then in terms of main time, you have the small seconds at the 2 o'clock position there. On the periphery of the dial, you can see around the flange, you can they have printed a yachting style timer. So it starts at 10 minutes, which is at the 2 o'clock position, and then counts down 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 there. And then this part, it's just the word yachting timer. It kind of skips across that when we go into the yacht timer function. The yachting dial flange also doubles as a chapter ring. So you can see this between every hour here, there's actually 10 divisions. So you can use that as a chapter ring in terms of setting the time when you come to actually set the time. So it does kind of have a chapter ring of sorts. The hands are polished steel, so that you see this main hands are polished steel, right, filled with lume there. And then they have a red central chronograph hand, which is actually a minute counter, as well as a red hand for the small seconds, and then a polished steel hand for the totalizer at the 10 o'clock position. You know, that's the description of the hands there, and there are kind of small arrows for the sub-dials. The lume in this watch is described as luminova, and it functions all right. I don't think it quite lasts all the way through, so that may be a function of the application of the lume. But of course, I'll put a lume shot right here for you to appreciate how it functions in the dark. Okay, so that's the description of the dial details. Above the dial is a flat crystal, and in this case, it is actually a sapphire crystal. That's what they featured in this watch. Okay, moving on to the telling you about the movement then. So in this case, this is an IsaSwiss 8270 movement. Accordingly, IsaSwiss may be discontinuing the production of these series of specialized movements. So this may be some of the last movements that you will see in production. Unlike the other model, the Ocean Moon, where they've actually bought up the last of that particular module, this one may not be the very last ones produced by the company, but you know, I think in short order, this may become some of the last watches you will see with this particular movement from IsaSwiss. Right, in this case, it does keep the time with the small seconds at the 2 o'clock position. It does have a quick set date at the 6 o'clock position there. Sorry, the time has actually blocked it, but it is actually black writing on the white disc bordered by a cutout rectangle there. It does have a central chronograph hand, which I've described, and it's kind of set in 10 minutes. And the totalizer on the 10 o'clock position functions differently. So I'm going to show you the function of the chronograph now. So if I hold this down, it goes into setting mode. So right now it's set at 4 minutes. Okay, just going to count that down to say 1 minute. Okay, and then you can go across to 10 minutes. So 10 minutes is kind of the default Regatta timer that you may see. But to show the function, I might just go over to 1 minute. Okay, and then let's just start the timer now. Okay, you hear the 2 beeps, and then you can see the second starts counting at the 10 o'clock position, and it counts every 2 seconds. So that's just a little bit different. It doesn't count every second. And you can see every 10 seconds it will beep a warning because it's only 1 minute left on the timer. Okay, that's another beep there, and then I'll just let it fast forward now. And right now it's beeping every second as it approaches 0. Okay, so that's the 0. And then it will start counting a chronograph function. So the chronograph really counts the totalizer at that 10 o'clock mark, and then the overall counting is using the central chronograph hand in terms of minutes. So hopefully you can appreciate that red central chronograph hand is now starting to move across, and it moves across in terms of an hour rotation with our totalizer at the 10 o'clock position. So that totalizer functions differently depending on the part of the timing function that you are using. So it counts down first, and then once the yachting timer reaches 0, which is kind of the start of a regatta, then it counts forwards in terms of a timing, timing elapsed time like a normal chronograph would. So okay, so that's really the function of this regatta style yachting timer. 1 to 10 minutes countdown, and then it goes into race timing. That's really how it works. All right, so that's a description of the case and the movement. Just moving on to the straps now. So the first is actually a steel bracelet. This one is completely all brushed, right? It's fully brushed, solid stainless steel, right? It does have solid end links that you can see there with a quick release system. They call that the capsa system. It does only have push pins, okay? It's not a screw link, and it does have a fairly solid butterfly deployant, but it is a friction deployant. There's no push button release here. All right, so that's really the description of this bracelet. It is actually pretty, well finished. The quality is very good. It's just, the fact that it doesn't have the push button. I think that's the main drawback here in terms of the, what else they could improve. I mean, screw links would be another step, of course. Okay, so let's just put it on to show you how it looks like on my wrist. So here we go, the Bausele ChronoS in beige color on my 17 centimeter wrist. So remember, 48 millimeter lug to lug distance is large. It's a large watch, 43 millimeters the bezel, but I think it fits okay on my wrist, and it's pretty comfortable. It looks pretty nice, and it doesn't ride too high at 14 millimeters. So I've enjoyed having this for sure. It's quite a good looker as well, as it really does attract some comments in the time that I've been wearing this. Okay, so that's the bracelet there. Now, I've shown you this quick release rubber as well, so let me just do that for you now. So with this release system, it's really quite good because you can just grab it and release it, just there, very easily, very quickly, and then you can go on to put on your rubber strap. So, just find a hole, push the quick release, and there we go. And then the other side, find a hole there. That's how you would do this, and there we go. So that's how it looks like on the rubber, right? Nice and easy with that quick release. Very pleasing change system there, and I did that probably in less than a minute, I think. Okay, so let's just try it on the rubber, on the wrist there. And there we have it, the Bausele ChronoS with rubber strap that is included. Pretty good quality rubber. It certainly feels quite nice, and that's how it looks like on my 17 centimeter wrist. Okay, let's just take that off. Okay, so there's the watch. There's the description of the entire watch with the strap system that it has. What have I found good about this? The things I've enjoyed. Well, I think, again, it is an interesting company with an interesting design story that they've gone for, Australian flavor, and a lot of it does come through, that sandal, those native animals etched into the case back there, the repository crown with a piece of Australia that you can take with you, really quite Australian, some of the design elements for sure, undeniably Australian. They've gone for the Swiss made quality. Now, I'm not saying that all Swiss made is good, but of course you do need to achieve certain standards to have it Swiss made, and they've gone for that and it does incur additional effort and costs, to actually have that label to put Swiss made at the bottom there. And they do interact greatly. I've really enjoyed my interaction with Christoph, the founder of the company. He's answered all my questions very well, and I think that hopefully bodes well in terms of customer service that you will get from Bausele. And they do seem to be reviewed very well every time I've checked out reviews on Google and whatnot about this particular company. And I like the unique bits that they have. It is the only Australian Swiss brand that I'm aware of. There are other Australian watches that have Swiss-made watches in their collection, but this is the only company that have gone completely Swiss-made across the entire collection. You do have that boutique Swiss Quartz movement. Yes, it is Quartz, but it is kind of a small volume manufacturer, IsaSwiss, which as I understand it, they do make high quality Swiss-made Quartz movements. So that's a little bit of a different thing that you're getting. I've never seen this outside of Bausele. And they've gone for good strap options, very good quality chain system. So again, showing you the capsule system in the metal bracelet there, that works very well, and then allows you to change it quickly onto the optional straps that you may get from Bausele. So something else that I've quite enjoyed it. I think the dial design is really quite good. I think it's quite attractive and different, certainly with that beige sand color. I haven't had a watch quite like that, and it's been quite an eye-catching thing, and I've enjoyed having this. And I have to say, the case quality is very good. It is actually really quite excellent. The sharpness, the solidity, the finishing, just feeling the finishing of the bracelet, as well as this bezel, the edges are all done very nicely. The transitions are done well. So no qualms at all about recommending this case for quality. Now, the things I will note, that might be slight weaknesses to consider, right? The Regatta movement is a rather specific function for a specific application. You can't use it as a normal chronograph because you can't start timing it from 0. You have to count down from 10 minutes to 1 minute. Or thereabouts in that range, and then it starts timing like a chronograph. So it's kind of a very specific thing, and if you're hoping for a chronograph, a normal chronograph, this isn't the watch for you. The bracelet, I've shown you the bracelet. It is only push pins, so these are the links that I've removed, and it is push pins. And the other thing I'd say that it doesn't have a micro adjustment. All the links are the same size like this. So if you happen to be just in between the links, you might wear the watch slightly loose, and that may be bothersome to some people. If you don't mind, a slight variation in how tight your watches are, then it won't matter. But if you are choosy about that, then it would have been nice for them to provide some half links. That would be a nice touch, I think. And then the bracelet doesn't have a push button release. I think that's something that they hopefully will step up in the future. Having a push button release, that would be nice. This is just a friction release. A push button would step that up in terms of quality and value as well. The pricing of this watch, I haven't mentioned it, I don't think, is 990 AUD, Australian dollars. That's the MSRP. For American buyers, US buyers, that would be under 750 USD. That kind of does put it firmly into entry to mid, luxury Swiss Quartz level. And with the competition out there, I guess the concerns that people have would be, will this stand up to scrutiny, to competition with all the other choices that you have? Let me know what you think, about this particular watch. I think the other models, certainly a lot of people brought up concerns regarding the pricing. No doubt this, will be a lot of the same sentiments, but, let me know your thoughts about this watch. The differences are, of course, it comes with a metal bracelet, unlike the other one that didn't have a metal bracelet. It does have all the other kind of full feature that you might expect, including 200 meter water resistant, but that may not be enough for some. So guys, let me know your thoughts once again about this Bausele ChronoS from the Australian Swiss-made company who have collaborated with me on this. Guys, thank you for watching this review. I hope you found this informative and enjoyable. If you like my videos, of course, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.